Lee Summit has lots of local destinations, but where do you start? Green Street, a vibrant community space in the heart of downtown, is where Lee Summit comes together. Its 3 dynamic areas have something for everyone. Green Street Market is a modern event venue and home to the downtown Lee Summit Farmers Market. Green Street Lawn is a covered performance space hosting live music, family activities, and more. Green Street Grove is a mixture of gathering spaces, an immersive playground, and bold architectural features. And all 3 areas host community events year-round. So the next time you set out to enjoy the city you love, remember, meet at Green Street. Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of June 1st. City Council will meet for a regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers and City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. Get ready for an exciting season as the World Soccer celebration comes to the region. Whether you're a resident preparing for increased activity or looking to join in the fun, we've created helpful resources such as transportation, short-term rental guidance, and FAQs, along with a full lineup of events happening throughout the celebration. Find more information at cityofls.net. And Downtown Days is this weekend, June 5th through 7th. Kick off summer with this free event. Enjoy live entertainment, vendor booths, fair food, and so much more. Visit leesummitdowntowndays.com for more information. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Welcome to the Lee Summit Sign Department. We are going to walk you through our process from start to finish. We make signs as needed here. It's not like we just go out into the field and place a speed limit sign here, no parking here. Our traffic engineers, they go through and they'll do field studies. They'll send us down an engineering work order for us to go out, place new signs or remove signs as needed. Coming from the material, our blanks come in and they're just aluminum blanks. We can put our white, our red, our fluorescent yellow, green, whatever. And basically what it looks like is just that there. Throw it up into the roller. And once we got it covered, take it to our work table here, and Tim will cut the corners, cut all the access off to where it's lined up right. As far as the plotter and the software that we use, there's a street name sign there, and he's gonna go ahead and print that out on the plotter so you can see the plotter and how it operates and runs. There's standards for the height, even just on letters on the sign blank. Basically what we have on the computer there is it's pretty much set up to those. And it goes through, it's got a very small but sharp needle that goes through and cuts everything out, letter by letter. Once that's done cutting, our next stage would be bringing it over here. Currently picking out the sign letters right now. We call it weeding or picking or however you want to call it. Next, putting it on the transfer tape. Then after it's taped, we bring it over to the roller. That's where we apply it to the actual sign blank. And we'll roll it through one time just to get the air bubbles out. And the last stage is basically just taking the transfer tape off the front of it. And there's a finished product of the street name sign. We'll take you out to the field and show you our process that we go through. We're going to go out and follow our sign guys, get something installed for you. This is where we check our underground utilities. Tim, you got AT&T?
AT&T's back here.
Evergy, Google, so we should be good to go. We normally put all of our stuff together out in the field. Then once the base is installed, we'll go ahead and Put the post in there. We've come up to perfect. And that's how we do it. Simple, quick.
Every time you turn on a tap, high-quality water is ready. But where does it come from? In Lee Summit, water flows from two trusted sources, the Missouri River and its surrounding aquifer. This water is collected and treated in the cities of Independence and Kansas City. In Independence, the Courtney Bend Water Treatment Plant operates 42 water wells. These wells reach 85 to 125 feet underground, drawing water up from the Missouri River aquifer, an underground water source that naturally filters water through layers of soil and rock. The facility filters, cleans, and softens the water before pumping up to 7.5 million gallons a day to Lee Summit. In Kansas City, the KC Water Treatment Plant draws water from the aquifer and the surface of the Missouri River. It then filters, cleans, and softens the water before pumping up to 25 million gallons per day to Lee Summit. In Lee Summit, Water Utilities controls the flow of these sources into the local system. Advanced software monitors the entire system, including 3 pumping stations and 8 water storage tanks, which maintain the water's pressure as it moves through 639 miles of water mains, carrying it to your home and the homes of more than 100,000 citizens. Water utility staff collect samples from throughout the system and send them for extensive laboratory testing, ensuring your water is safe, meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. When you turn on a tap, you're accessing a vast system spanning hundreds of miles, each foot carefully planned and strategically maintained. A system that leverages innovation to harness nature, turning a vital life source into an ordinary convenience, bringing you safe, reliable, high-quality water 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. To learn more about Lee Summit Water, visit lswater.net.
Traditionally, we think as police officers, those responding to law enforcement needs within the community. But honestly, we are there to serve our citizens, and our citizens do go into crisis. They do have mental health crises, and we're being called to those scenes on a regular basis. In order to help serve those citizens better, we did initiate the Crisis Intervention Team Program. These are officers that are specially trained to de-escalate crisis situations. Recently, we've brought co-responders onto the scene, licensed qualified mental health professionals housed within our police department, and they respond with those officers directly to those scenes where a crisis is occurring so they can interact with that citizen and get them the help they need right there on that scene.
The co-responders are either bachelor or master level in a behavioral health related field. They wear plain clothes, they don't carry weapons or anything like that.
I have a police radio that I listen to all day. Listen for, those key words: mental health, behavioral health, crisis.
There's a lot of officers that just call for me. I have my own radio number.
I also have the ability to self-dispatch to them and say 982 is en route.
Officers en route, 914, Armstrong.
So typically I arrive after they've made it safe. I'll make contact and get kind of the rundown, and then I just kind of jump right in.
I'm like, hey, my name's Allison. I'm a mental health professional. I'm here to help you. I'm not here to take you to jail or arrest you.
Sometimes all a person needs is a voice, someone neutral, someone outside that, can listen. I do a lot of safety planning, including family, their support network, who's close to you. If they're home alone, who can come over and hang out with you today? Can we lock away your sharps? Can we put up your meds? Do you need meds? Can we get you over to the urgent care to get you assessed for your medications? Some of them also are like, oh, I'm so glad you came. This made me feel so much better.
Our main goal as co-responders is to, one, get people connected to the services that they need, and also divert from emergency rooms and jails.
And they almost get a different view of the police responding. That lets me know you care and the officers care.
Please, how can we help you?
My husband has...
In 2020, we had 722 mental health related calls for service. 2022, by that time, 1,479. These mental health related calls for service are increasing. How we're responding to that is increasing the number of crisis intervention team officers we have available, as well as the number of co-responders we have available to respond on these calls.
So what I think is important for the community to know about the co-responder program is that we're here, we exist. All you have to do when you call 911 is ask for us. Say, hey, I want a co-responder to respond to this crisis, and we'll go. I was really struggling about 8 years ago on my personal journey with mental health, and I met some amazing social workers and amazing programs that have helped me get to where I am today. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else. We want to help, and that's what we love to do.
So I had a client, we got a call, she had some suicidal ideations, and she really felt that she had nobody. And and getting to know her story and getting to know who comes around and sees you, well, then we found a support person and they responded immediately. And we made a plan. I called back and checked on her in an hour, and then I checked on her in 2 hours. We were able to get her into the additional services to where she talks to someone every week or more. I just took a person that really just thought they had nobody and nobody would show up for them, and show them you do. And you'll be amazed who is in your corner if you just simply say, I need a little help.
Call this Monday, June 1st, Finance and Budget Committee meeting to order. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chair Carlisle,
Present?
Vice Chair Shields.
Here.
Councilmember Frazier,
Present.
Councilmember Funk.
Present.
Thank you. All are present, and we do have a quorum. Next, I have approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
Chair, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. Could I have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Shields.
Aye.
Councilmember Frazier,
Yes.
Councilmember Funk,
Yes.
Chair Carlisle.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Agenda is approved. Next on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any public commenters? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to business. We have 2026-7670, approval of the May 18th, 2026 Finance and Budget Committee action letter.
Chair,
Thank you.
I move that we approve item A 2026-7670.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the May 18th action letter. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frazier,
Yes.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Carlisle,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shields.
Aye.
Great. That passes. Next on the agenda, TMP-3697, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase property, casualty, and liability insurance for FY27, where the total expenditure less than $1,286, and authorizing the execution of any necessary documents for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri. Mr. Rucker.
Yes, Madam Chair. Ed Rucker, Chief Counsel for Management Operations. This is the same ordinance you guys passed last year under Bill number 25-115. The purpose of this ordinance is to avoid the crush of making decisions at the very end of the month. One of the things I learned when I got here, the first year I was here, was that we had a lot of drama trying to get the insurance companies to give us bids in a timely enough manner to put them on your agenda in an appropriate way. Insurance companies, frankly, don't want to give you a bid until they know you're ready to accept it. There's a business problem for them. The more they know about us, the better they can qualify the risk. So they're not interested in giving us a bid in May, wondering what's going to happen, and then seeing the coverage start in July. Our fiscal year runs July 1 through June 30th, so our insurance runs out on June 30th. What this ordinance will do is allow the city manager to, at an amount less than or equal to the anticipated budget of $1.268 million, purchase our auto, crime, cyber, general liability insurance, property insurance, our umbrella coverage, our spa liability, and our oddly named inland marine coverage, which I have learned through on-the-job training, actually means our heavy equipment stuff, our things like radio gear, portable radios, street sweepers, those large kinds of assets that wouldn't necessarily be covered under the auto policy. What we get, if you all will allow this to happen, is the ability to respond quickly to what they will offer us. Brian Head, the city attorney, and I have a meeting with Lockton, our insurance brokers, on Friday at 10 o'clock, where we'll get our first response from the taking to the market our business. And once we can find that out, then we'll know where we are. If we do not get an offer for a package that is less than $1.286 million, we will have to come back, okay? You all will know that we have to come back. The $1.286 million is the number that is in the anticipated budget for FY27. It is a number that we looked at with Lockton and asked Lockton, are you fairly confident, highly confident, as Michael Milliken would have said when he was raising debt, highly confident that this number is sufficient to cover all our needs? They said yes. So this is kind of housekeeping, and it avoids you guys getting dragged into a emergency meeting on June 28th.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
So the likelihood of going over the 1.286 is, since you already had the conversation with Lockton, you've shared this number, correct?
I believe the likelihood is minimal.
That's what I was saying.
Less than 1 in 20.
Okay,
I'll be real surprised.
good, good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Nope. Do I have a motion?
Chair,
Thank you.
move to recommend TMP-3697 to council for approval.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to move TMP 3697 to full council with a recommendation of approval. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Carlisle,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shields,
Aye.
Councilmember Frazier.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have item C, TMP 3698, an ordinance approving amendment number 7 to the budget for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, as adopted by ordinances 10132, 10133, 10136, 10137, and 10138 by amending the authorized expenditures for the city of Lee Summit, Missouri. Mr. Gentry.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. Rick Gentry, Budget Manager. So Budget Amendment number 7 is before you this evening for consideration to forwarding on to council. It kind of contains 3 different types of items within the amendment. So we'll kind of go through those so you can, and for the benefit of Councilmember Frazier, we'll kind of talk about what justifies a budget amendment and what's involved in the process as well. So Budget Amendment number 1, the first item in there is increasing the spending authority for the Parks and Recreation Athletics Cost Center. As they're having additional need for referees for many of the activities they do. The revenue sources for the recreation fund at this end is all based upon fees charged for memberships, rentals, activity fees that are paid by users of the park's facilities and their programs. So that's why we'd cover this increases through those fees and charged to the participants in those programs. The next 2 line items apply to our general fund, which is, funded through our multiple revenue sources, sales tax, property tax, fees and charges, et cetera. This is not an increase in the fund for the general fund. This is simply moving money between 2 cost centers. As we did that transition from Lawson to Workday, we did some restructuring of the way departments had their money allocated. And one of the things, there was a mismatch in the accounting, and we got a large sum of money got moved into Public Works Administration instead of operations. So this is to correct that, so they'll have ample funds to continue their activities throughout the end of the year. So we're asking to transfer $259,995 from Public Works Administration to Public Works and Operations. So for the learning part, this is for any time we need to increase spending authority or transfer money between departments or funds, then that's an action that we have to bring forth to council and committee for approval. Any questions on that item? Committee? All right. The next item is a personnel item. This is recently the city did a review of the GIS program which the city has and the needs of the departments and across the organization. And as part of our restructuring and working smarter and more efficiently, determined we're going to relocate 2 of the GIS technicians that are currently in IT, going to place them out closer to where they're used out in the departments. So 1 in Public Works and 1 in Development Services. So that's reducing the ITS FTE count by 2. And then that 3rd one is one of those positions that's currently vacant and is part on the frozen list, included in the FY27 proposed budget. The next item is the Manager Enterprise Technology Services position. So with those GIS technicians moving, we're restructuring that position and kind of updating the job description and moving that out to water utilities to help address some support their technology needs. And it's also a job title change to Manager of Technology Services. So in this case, this is a movement of changing of FTEs in the department and moving things around the organization. So therefore, in a job title change, those are other things that would be brought forth to committee and council to change and update. And this kind of ties in also to our position control that we've implemented with Workday as we budget at the position level now. So we see a position, we budget for that position, and then if we make changes, we got to get authority to make those changes. And then the last item, this kind of ties into the Manager of Technology Services change on the prior page, is our pay and classification plan. This is where all of our positions live. It's a document that's about 6 pages long. It includes the job titles and the pay bands, whether it's the non-exempt staff, which are your salary positions, or I'm sorry, your hourly positions. So the pay ranges, the minimum, the midpoint, and the maximum rate for those positions. And then also the salary positions, exempt positions are starting, midpoint, and maximum. And it has the titles in there, and then you can see on the left-hand side, we have the manager of technology services position upgrade or updated, so that would be approved. And on the right-hand side is the excerpt from the plan for the the represented fire positions. We did the police a couple of months ago. This is bringing and recognizing the collective bargaining agreement and the new pay rates for the firefighters, paramedics, engineers, captains, and the communication specialist within the fire department. So again, this is approved, will be approved tomorrow night as part of the here for FY27 as part of the public hearing tomorrow night, and be approved in the next couple of weeks for FY27. So therefore, when we make changes to it, we bring it forth to the committee and council for any changes or updates. Any questions?
Please
Okay.
go forward.
And that's all we have.
Okay. Any questions for this? I see none. Can I have a motion,
Chair,
please?
I recommend approval to the full city council TMP-3698.
Thank you. Thank you for a second. I have a motion and a second to move to full city council TMP-3698 with a recommendation of approval. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chair Carlisle,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shields,
Aye.
Councilmember Frazier,
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have TMP-3701, an ordinance approving a 2-year renewal of the workers' compensation excess policy, authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Midwest employers for the deposit guarantee premium of $163,800 for FY 2027 and the same for FY 2028, and to execute all documents necessary to obtain such coverage. Ms. Fargo.
Thank you, Chair Carlisle. Jennifer Vargo, Human Resources Director. This, too, is the same ordinance that was passed last year. With the exception of this year, we are asking for a 2-year renewal instead of a 1-year. Midwest Risk Insurance has come back with a very generous guarantee for 2 years. As a background, we are self-insured, and so we have a self-insured retention that we are required to have through the state of Missouri, and then the excess policy protects us for any large claims above our retention. It's kind of like a stop loss, and we've had it always on our work comp, so that's what this is.
Okay, thank you. Do I have any questions?
So it's the same premium amount for both years? No.
It is, and that's, they've said no increase in premium, no increase in retention, so that's very generous.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Could I have a motion, please?
Chair, I move to recommend TMP-3701 to council for approval.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to move TMP-3701 on to full council with a recommendation of approval. Could I have a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Shields,
Aye.
Councilmember Frazier,
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Carlisle.
Aye. Thank you. That passes. Next, we have TMP-3689, an ordinance enacting new section 2-3 of the municipal code titled Bonds for Officers and Employees, providing for the bonding of certain officers and employees. Mr. Rucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You all have some unexercised power, and we're asking you to exercise it. In the charter, at section 7.3, it requires bonds for people in municipal court who handle either the bail bond money, the money you put up to make sure you show up for court, or the fines and costs. The charter also requires at section 14.6 that people who handle money for you as your employees be bonded as well. There isn't a specific city ordinance that addresses that, and so what we want to do is clean this up as a part of legal housekeeping and ask you all to specifically identify positions, amounts, and who's also not included. You know, a bond is basically a promise by the insurer to stand in the stead if there's a loss. What we have before you is an ordinance that will create 4 bonds for non-court employees, that is the city manager, the Director of Finance, and the 2 Deputy Directors of Finance, and those bonds are in the amounts of $250,000. For the court, there will be 9 employees. The court number of employees and the court bond amounts were worked out in conjunction with Judge Maxwell Lopez and Judge Altieri, who were cooperative and helpful and responded to me every time I had a question for them. They wanted to be sure all of their employees were bonded properly because the court's a small enough enterprise that somebody may be doing a non-money job for 3 or 4 weeks and somebody takes a vacation and then you're taking cash at the counter. So those are bonds for people who handle either the fines coming in or the bail bonds we're receiving and keeping in trust and then either seizing because the defendant did not show up or returning to the person who posted the bond. There are a couple other things I want to call your attention to in the ordinance, okay? I used to speak English as a first language. One, the ordinance will give the city manager the authority to ask that someone be bonded on an amount, period. This is a way we wanted to build in the flexibility so we don't have to come back to the council if we have what Mr. Gentry just went through, position changes and changes in the names of positions. If we create another position that should be bonded, then we want to be able to have that bonded by the city manager's authority immediately. The second thing it does is it literally requires the city manager to obtain bonds if there's a new position in the court that the presiding judge wants to be bonded, okay? So again, we're not coming back here, but we will be able to be bonded and meet that. We also ask you to make determinations that some positions are exempt. That is, not everybody that takes money for selling a hamburger at the pool, okay, needs to post a bond, okay? If you all want, you have the authority to require that. Okay, so our suggestion to staff that that's kind of overkill. I've not worked in any city where I've seen that happen, but it is within your purview to decide that. So we're trying to take the people who take money under the schedule of fees, say I'm working in development services and I get a fee because somebody wants to record a plat or something, then that shouldn't be somebody who puts up a bond. The people who receive utility payments, the people who receive money for police report copies, copying fees, the people, when our clerk's office receives money for an open records request because we made copies, the food and beverage sales and admission to city facilities, those would be specifically exempted. The charter specifically calls out the council's power and authority in this matter. Literally 14.6 mentions your authority twice as a matter of ordinance, but it's better legal housekeeping and it's much better and clearer direction for us as your staff if we know exactly what you want. This, of course, can be changed. It can be amended if you guys want to change it, but this is our best product for you to at least make sure that we're all on the same page and they're doing specifically what you want us to do.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions over this? Please.
So at this point, are most of those folks that you recommend have to be bonded, are they already getting those bonds, but we're just kind of formalizing it now, or will this
No, they
trigger
are in fact, Mayor Pro Tem, they are all bonded right now. Okay. As this came to our attention, the city manager exercises a spending authority, and we obtained bonds for the city manager and the 3 in finance, and then we also obtained bonds for folks in the court. The spending was $3,500 for the 4 people in this building and $4,500 for the 9 folks at court. Okay. It's not a large expense.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. That's all I have, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Chair,
Please.
I recommend TMP-3689 for approval to the full council.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to move TMP-3689 on to full council with a recommendation of approval. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Frazier?
Aye.
Councilmember Funk?
Aye.
Chair Carlisle?
Aye.
Vice Chair Shields?
Aye.
Okay, next up we have TMP-3700 An Ordinance approving a mutual aid agreement between the City of Lee Summit, Missouri and the Board of Police Commissioners of Kansas City, Missouri related to law enforcement services provided in support of FIFA World Cup 2026 activities in the Kansas City Metropolitan area, little error there, and authorizing the mayor to execute the same.
Major Josh Patterson, Police Department.
Thank you.
So the mutual aid agreement that you see is a companion document. There's a separate one that went to the city manager's office. It was from Kansas City 2026. They are the ones who will route the funding. Essentially, they're the nonprofit that Kansas City has that's hosting the FIFA event. I would guess it's probably been 18 months ago. Chief Forbes tasked me with going to all the meetings for all things FIFA. It's been great. But as part of that, we started down this path of how reimbursement was going to work. And there was a lot of delays in that process, which held us back from committing resources early on. A number of reasons for that. For those of you that may not remember, DHS was shut down for a really long time, and FEMA is under DHS, and the funding is routing through FEMA essentially to KC 2026. And when they put out their flyer and asked for commitment from the city of Lee Summit, we were pretty skeptical, to be quite honest. We didn't want to overcommit our resources to Kansas City, and we weren't certain on the funding mechanism that we were going to get reimbursed for the officers that we've sent down there. That's why you're seeing this document 2 weeks before FIFA starts, is because it was a delayed process. It wasn't because we weren't attending meetings or we weren't in the know. There was some stagnation just with how things came to light. So the document that you're signing is a mutual aid agreement between us and Kansas City that allows us to go down and work and assist them. There's specific language in there that lines out just for KC 2026. It allows us to be reimbursed for our normal overtime rates. We have been very conservative with the number of officers that we are allowing to go down and work. They are in specialized units like our motor units, because there's going to be escorts all over the metropolitan area for all the dignitaries and people that think they're worthy of escorts. And then our bomb squad. They're a UOSI funded bomb squad, which means we get money from the federal government for some of our equipment. So we try to make them available when they're needed. But those are the only two entities that are going to be assisting with FIFA.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Have those numbers been confirmed, the number of staff or officers that?
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay.
So I've got three separate FIFA event days. My motors are going to go down there and work, and there'll be 3 officers only. Okay. We've limited that because we also have demands for our officers here. Our bomb squad will send 1 officer down there, I think, over the course of 9 separate events. We will have less than 200 hours. That's what we committed to because we had to, and that'll be fully reimbursed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Please.
So I think the answer is probably yes to this. So you feel like you'll still have sufficient resources in Lee Summit to cover Legacy Blast, downtown days, Football Fridays, all that stuff that we have coming up?
Yes, ma'am. We were very selective about the dates that we allowed for them to work. Mm-hmm. And that's why we didn't just carte blanche say, officer, sign up for whatever you want, because we understand that the demands here are going to be increased as well. So 100% we will be able to support our activities.
Awesome. And then you said 200 hours was a minimum? Where did that?
That was a cap
okay.
for those officers, because if you think about it, if I send 3 motors down there over 3 days, they're going to be probably working 12-hour days. That's 100 hours in just those motors before the bomb squad gets added to it. So the cap is a little bit funky because they reimburse up to $150 per hour per officer. So my cap is like $30,000. We won't touch that. And the $150 an hour comes from those that are coming from out of state that have per diem rates associated to it and lodging. We're not asking for any of that. We don't need that. We won't bill them at $150 an hour. We bill them for whatever it is that our officers' overtime rate is.
Okay. I think I must have just misunderstood the terminology. So the 200 hours is the maximum that we're committing to? 200
hours is the maximum amount, yes.
Okay. I thought that you were saying it was a minimum that we were trying to meet.
Ma'am.
Okay. Nope, that makes a lot more sense. So that's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple of questions. So the reimbursement mechanism, is that through the other agreement that you were saying is in the city manager's office? Thank you. And then the rates, are these the new contract rates?
Yes,
that
they
are
are.
being, okay, I just want to make sure both of those things. Thank you. Any other questions?
You answered them.
Can I have a motion?
Chair.
I,
Oh, go ahead.
okay. I recommend approval TMP-3700 to the full city council.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to move TMP 3700 to full city council with a recommendation of approval. Could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Chair Carlisle,
Aye.
Vice Chair Shields,
Aye.
Councilmember Frazier.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Patterson. Next, we have 2026-7679, discussion of employee health insurance, financial review, and strategic consideration updates. Ms. Vargo.
Thank you, Chair Carlisle. Jennifer Vargo, Human Resources Director. We are here today to continue the dialogue regarding employee health benefits. Through the RFP process and subsequent meetings with staff, finance and budget, and city council, we established 2 immediate and primary expectations for Alliant, which is our new broker, which they agreed to support. The first one is to project the 1/1/27 renewal early and consistently, regardless of what that might tell us, as good or bad as it might be. And then 2, to develop potential solutions as quickly as possible and guide stakeholders through those discussions. For context, I just wanted to remind everyone that for January 27 enrollment, we do that in October. So everything needs to be finalized and in place by September. So that should give you a guideline of the timeline that we're working on. As you know, the city manager budget is being presented tomorrow at public hearing with a 10% increase in health benefits. The current projections, and Alliant will talk more about this, for health insurance for 1/1/27 currently sits at 25%. So we have some work to do. Since being appointed our broker March 1st, Alliant has worked closely with our carriers, primarily Cigna, and some other outside vendors to develop a range of potential solutions. And together we've established a process to evaluate those. To date, we've talked with HR, finance, city manager, the entire management team. Today, we're here with you. And we will be seeking guidance from you to understand when you think it would be a good time to get in front of the full council and Mayor Lopez. We do recognize that some of the committee members are new, and so we've asked Alliant to just give a little bit of background information and then get into the presentation of where we sit currently and what some of the strategies are and the discussions that we've already had. And with that, I'd like to bring up Rick with Alliant.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Rick Colley with Alliant. Pleasure to be back here and a chance to meet some new members of the council, the Finance and Budget Committee. We promised no matter what the answer was going to be, we would come share that with you early. That projection of 25% is just that. It's a projection. It could be better. It could be worse. We asked the city manager if he would like us to put some fluff in there so that we don't have to come back and revise that number upwards. And he asked us to peg the number as closely as possible, so that is our best projection. What will influence that is primarily a function of what your claims experience is between now and the time that we finalize the renewal. So as opposed to what you heard on the property casualty side where they renew very last minute, last day sometimes, in our world, per Jennifer's comments, we have to be out in front of this and get you the information to make decisions much earlier so that we can prepare communication education, be prepared for the open enrollment process. So while it would be easy to say it's June 1st, we have some time, we feel the clock ticking on us. And today what we'd like to do is share with you some of the potential solutions to bridge the gap between the 25% projected renewal and the 10% that's projected as far as the budget increase. Any questions before we jump into that?
Doesn't look like it. Please go on. if you can figure it out.
Pull that full screen and then you can use arrows.
Thank you.
Arrow button, yep.
Appreciate it. I'll go through this pretty high level, and I'll ask my colleague Matt Cohan to come up when appropriate and answer the hard questions. But first, from a financial summary standpoint, the key things on this, it demonstrates that we have been running historically back over the last 24 months, typically at or above the desired loss ratio. And when that happens, then the carrier's put in a loss position and they ask for bigger rates of increase. We're also in an almost 10% inflationary environment in the world that we're living in right now. So this is the most complex, challenging time to be a plan sponsor that I've experienced in well over a decade. At the bottom, you'll see the red numbers. Prior year, we ran 130% loss ratio, and that loss ratio is simply a projection of the claims versus the premium. The desired loss ratio from the medical carrier is about 91%. So that's why you saw the rate of increase you did last year. And the City Council approved a couple of changes, one of which was to offer a tighter, more narrow network through Cigna. And that has paid some dividends. Almost half of your employee population, 47%, picked that option. And we're seeing some of that positive impact in your claims already. On a rolling 12 basis, that number is meaning the most recent 12 months of experience, that the loss ratio has improved, but we're still running 114% loss ratio. Again, the desired loss ratio is 91%. The other thing I'd like to point out, and we'll go into this a little deeper, is a small percentage of your population is driving the losses. So we'll dig into this later. It's not uncommon that that's the case, but we'll talk about some ways to try to mitigate that. Any questions before I jump past that?
Are you going to come back to the cost drivers?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just terminology, when you say the loss ratio, that's basically saying like they want to take in $100 in premiums and pay out $91 in claims so that they have some margin of profit and administration and all that. Is that, do I understand that right?
That's exactly right. And a big part of that also is the network management, which you saw out loud here recently, right? They were negotiating on your behalf, in effect, with HCA, and we're out of network actually for 4 or 5 days. So they were managing a national and local network on your behalf. The other piece that's driving this is the stop loss component. So while you're insured, you have a pooling point, but a portion of your premium and that 9% goes to insulate you from having a large claimant or a series of large claimants just blow up the entire risk pool. So the city claims up to $150,000 apply towards your loss ratio. Amounts above that get excluded. And so a portion of that 9% you pay is for that protection. Does that make sense?
Yes. But when they're looking at the renewal, they're looking at those extraordinary claims as well? Is that driving part of the increase in the renewal?
It's not completely ignored because that's coming out of one pocket or the other.
Right.
But it's an important insulator in the process. So when we're talking about the loss ratios here, we're talking about your net loss ratio, not your gross, excluding the amounts above the 150,000 pooling level.
So the green on this chart, is that's excluding those really big claims that are above that pooling point?
So that total, you mean up top in the medical component?
Yeah.
Correct. That's net numbers. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions? You can see here on the top left that we broke out, so we now have multiple plan options, right? Both within the broader network as well as within the tighter network. Down below, you can see our enrollment. Total plans, 719 covered under the plan. I think we've covered most of the other things, so I'll advance beyond this. Voila, we have some green numbers, and that's a reflection of current month of April is a positive change. So both in March and April, we had positive loss ratios. Again, a part of that is because you're getting substantially better discounts in that tighter network. So the decision you made and implemented is inuring to your benefit to this point. And we don't see the impact of those until March or April because of the claims lag right? So if a claim is incurred in February, we probably won't see that be paid until March or April, run through the system. So things are trending the positive direction, but again, we still are climbing out of a hole. And if we had to project the renewal today, 25% is what we're anticipating. I'm going to cover some ground that we covered with the committee last time we were here for the newer members. You have marketed, somebody on your behalf, or the prior broker, marketed City of Lee Summit 4 years in a row. The marketplace is numb to the City of Lee Summit right now. We need to let the waters calm, and we need to solve the problem. And our primary problem is not Cigna, it's the loss ratio. So last year, only Cigna, and then Blue Cross kind of came back with an offer. So there wasn't much market appetite. So our recommendation is that we not market this year. Let's work to address the problem, and the problem is the loss ratio. And then we'll discuss next year or the following year when it makes sense to go back to the marketplace. We also want to start to move towards an alternate funding type program, to a self-funded plan where we had more flexibility, where we have more control. We can design the program as we want, and we have the upside of positive experience. Conditions are not such now that it makes sense for you to take more risk on this risk pool. And in talking with finance and the city manager, there's not going to be the downside variability associated with a self-funded plan. That budget vibration is not tolerable this year. So the options that we are going to look at for 1/1 are only fully insured for this year, with an eye towards 1/1/28 of seeing if it makes sense for the city to take more risk. Any questions about that? I'll keep moving. Summary of the large claimants. We had 21 members with $100,000 more or more of paid claims in 2025. That represented $6.3 million in claims. Of that, 16 are active and 4 have terminated. 8 of those members are spouses, and they represent 1.9 million of those claims. 4 were dependents and 9 were employees. Many employers or plan sponsors are recognizing that spouses typically cost more money than employees on average, and they are having their contributions reflect that reality. We discussed that with the management team, and there was a really positive response to the concept of, if we've got to share this responsibility, allotting more of the cost to the spouses than is done today was something that the management team had openness towards. 3 of the top claimants: cardiology, cancer, and mental health. Not a huge surprise. Those are normal categories. Any questions about what's driving the large claims?
Please define terminated.
Terminated in ours is no longer on the plan, no longer employed, no longer eligible for COBRA.
Okay.
So truly off the plan, no longer your risk. I don't know how familiar the committee is, but after somebody leaves employment, there's typically a 18, sometimes 29-month period that they can stay on the plan, pay the premiums. And when they do, typically people are making pragmatic decisions. They're only going to pay that amount of money if they're pretty sure that they're going to submit more in claims than they are in premium. Any other questions?
Yeah, council member.
When you look at those top claims, I guess I'm still just trying to wrap my head around the pooling point, the stop loss. So like it says a $900,000 cardiology claim, but only how much of that is applied to our loss ratio?
That's right. 150 goes directly to your losses and your loss ratio.
Okay.
To your point earlier, Vice Chair, it's still accounted for in that Cigna's paying it out of their reinsurance component.
Right.
So
they're still having to factor that in to some extent?
That's right. We
Yeah.
worked, so the stop loss market has its own trending level, and I don't want to get too detailed, but that's more inflationary even than the overall trends. And the reason for that is, if you have a $150,000 pooling point and a $150,000 claim this year, that's a 0 reinsurance claim. If we have 10% inflation and that becomes a $165,000 claim, now we have a $15,000 claim where we had 0 before. So it is It's not the most important factor, but when we are penetrating that by that amount, it's not unimportant either. And when we move, if we move to a self-funded arrangement, you will see that more directly because we will then be buying independent stop loss in the marketplace. So, and the other part is we're talking about human beings and people with large claim situations. So part of our longer term strategy is what can we do to mitigate the number and severity of large claimants. It's good for the budget, it's good for individual affordability, it's also good for health and productivity of your employees and their dependents.
Yeah, and that all makes sense. I'm just trying to make sure I understand like what these numbers mean to us as we look at this specific budget question.
These are great questions. Please keep asking them.
Thank you.
This provides some more detail about what it means dollar-wise when we look at a 25% rate of increase and kind of how we arrived at that number. Okay, now what can we do about it? So we have basically a $2.33 million funding gap between the 25% projected renewal and the proposed 10% budget increase for this line item. On the contribution, there's different ways we can attack this. We can move the contributions, and from a 3-tier to a 4-tier means basically we're charging the same amount now to cover a child or children as to cover the spouse. Now we're talking about actually charging more to cover the spouse than for the children. That's very normal in our environment. You may choose to employ that or not. By the way, we're putting forth a menu based upon the conversations we've had and scrubbed collectively. These are not cumulative when you're looking at the savings amount, because some of them, when we mix and match them, there would be a deterioration to some of the other savings. But collectively, we're working to try to save the $2.3 million, bridge that gap. On the contribution splits, there's $1.3 million savings opportunities. I will tell you, in the management team meeting, there was interest and openness to increasing the spousal amount. Collectively, though, the feedback from the management team was to look more so at benefit plan designs and alternative ways to try to impact utilization than it was to increase contributions. Sharing what we learned from that meeting. One of the plan design opportunities we have is what's called a MERP. It's a medical expense reimbursement plan. So you'd have, how this would work is, just think about how you have health savings account today. What you end up doing is you go to your carrier, Cigna, we strip out the benefits to about as low as permissible plan that they have filed and available, and then we backfill that with an employer-funded reimbursement account. And the reason the math works on this is generally 5 to 15% of your covered population will hit their out-of-pocket max. So you, in effect, this is kind of a quasi-self-funded approach, but it's a small layer in between today's deductible and what Cigna's maximum permissible deductible would be. And these are, the employer retains the money, so if somebody doesn't use it, it stays with you. There is some administrative additional complexity because an individual we'd have to communicate as to how this new offering works. They, in effect, just think about it as you would still meet your deductible responsibilities, and then you would present the card that would function like a debit card to cover the difference between today's deductible and out-of-pocket and the new level. There's a fairly meaningful projection that we've made as far as savings in that of $1.9 million towards the $2.3 million gap.
What's today's deductible?
Matt, do we have those as part of this? Is this? There we go. So I thought we had that slide in here. $750 in network, $3,400 for the high deductible plan.
So what, in a current PPO in the market, you do this for a living, what's the standard you're seeing today? $750 is rich.
It is. So it'd be about twice that. And we have just received in the last management meeting information about who the city would like to benchmark itself against. So we've now got the plans that you'd like to target yourself, right, and compare yourself to. Your point is spot on, Councilman. That's a rich offering in today's world.
Thank you.
Okay, jumping back. Plan design changes, we could make those and simply, without putting in the MERP, right, without putting in that additional account, we could simply increase deductibles and out-of-pocket. Milder changes could get about 3%, more drastic ones could get about 5%. Okay, and then the opportunities to try to help the participants and help the plan at the same time. The first one is related to how employees and plan participants choose their providers today. We've reviewed large data sets, and roughly about 20% of the time, an individual on their own today will pick a provider that is producing outcomes within the top 20%. And it's not the participant's fault, right? They have, WebMD used to be a pretty reliable source. Now that's pay for play. There's a lack of trust in the Cigna, Aetna, Blue Cross. So employees typically don't use their websites to try to credential and find the right doctors. There are a couple of options out there now, and one that the management committee gravitated towards is one that we could even overlay on top of your program. It was founded by a group that built Health Grades and WebMD, and it's not a pay-for-play model. It's only a couple years old, but it's a very intuitive, simple website where I put the conditions that I want, my zip code, and they will know which network I'm in, because the city would provide that Rick's in the tighter network, Matt's in the larger network, so they will only provide in-network providers. They will stratify the providers based upon their outcomes in the top 5%, which is elite, and then the next 15% are what they would consider the highest quality docs. By the way, this could even be different within a healthcare system. We know there's a lot of good care going on at University of Kansas Hospital, but I might want a doctor to provide a certain procedure and not another. And those things tend to be, when I say outcomes, how often is the provider providing this service? What kind of complication rate do they have? What kind of recidivism do they have? All those things are important when they're measuring the outcomes. So there was interest in this. Because it's a newer offering in the Kansas City market, we've got the vendor that the management committee, management team gravitated towards to offer it as a free service for the balance of the year, and then determine if, based upon the information, are we getting utilization, that we could decide if you want to pay for it going forward. So I think it's one thing we would want to talk to you about. How do we incent participation in this? And typically they'll do some sort of raffle or sweepstakes that we'd probably ask the city to pay for, given the fact that they're going to offer this on a trial basis with no money or strings attached to it. The idea would be, if this works and we do get the type of participation, individuals make better decisions as to which providers they go to, create better outcomes, lower our cost, improve health. That's the idea behind this concept. I'll pause on that before I go to the next one.
Any questions? Member Shields, or Mayor Pro Tem Shields, whichever.
Okay, so what is contribution splits on this chart?
Contribution splits. Matt, do you want to jump into that?
Hi, I'm Matt Cohan. The contribution split just means the split between what the city pays and what the employee pays. So if it's the city pays 90%, the employee paid 10%.
So how is that different from plan design changes? Or I guess
that's just
so on the contribution. I'm sorry, Matt. On the contribution, just think about how much premium equivalent you pay as the individual to have the coverage, and that would be moving it to the maximum permissible amounts under the CBAs that have been agreed upon.
Whereas plan design changes would be the deductible levels and out-of-pocket max and that kind of thing?
Correct.
Okay. and then MERP is sort of like a big HSA that the city funds and pays out claims from.
Yeah, and one of the main differences between the HSA is an individual portable
Right,
account.
that's why I say like one big one
The-
that's not.
the
it's not
MERP is
employee by
controlled by
employee,
the
yeah.
city.
But it's like we're putting money into a pot that we can then pay health insurance claims out of to, I just want to make sure I'm kind of understanding the terminology, right?
You're
Okay.
spot on.
Okay. And then the provider navigation, so like I'm obviously on private health insurance, city council members don't get city health coverage. And every employer that I've worked for, my husband's employers, they're always trying to get us to use this, that, or the other navigator that will help us find the best place to get our hip replaced, which luckily we don't have to do yet. But they always, I'm trying to think when I sort of, they never work very well. They never give good cost estimates. They never seem to give good information. Explain to me how this is better than that.
So one of the problems with today's health navigation, two of them. One is it's coming through sources that most employees don't trust, and that's the Blues, United, Cigna, and Aetna. They just haven't found that to be a reliable way to get the information. And I'm not beating up on the carriers. That's just what the plan participants say, because they think there's a conflict there. The other reason is WebMDs of the world have turned into a pay-for-play model. So when you go out and as an individual, most of them will have 4.5 or 5 stars. And therefore, it's really useless information because I can't distinguish between, basically you're saying they're all good providers. So this is going to rank them in a way that would be meaningful to your participants. If it shows, here's the top 5%, here's the top 20%, that to me is significantly different than what's currently available in the marketplace.
Okay. I mean, again, the ones I think that I've been exposed to are maybe a little bit different. It seems to be more like help estimate your cost or find the most cost-effective place to go, but the prices are never transparent. It never calculates it correctly. It just never seems like it actually gives you useful information. So if this is more about just quality rankings and you think it is.
That's right. The cost
good
estimators
data,
are getting
yeah.
better because of the federal requirements. They're still pretty opaque.
Yeah.
So that's an area where the system needs to improve.
Okay.
As we think about moving people into qualified high deductible plans with their health savings accounts, that's an area where our industry has room for improvement for sure.
Okay. I mean, I'd be interested to see, especially if it's, if it doesn't cost anything for the first such period of time, how it would roll out. That's one where I would really want to see like what the actual experience of the employees is, because maybe this is purely subjective, but like every time we get one of these things in the mail telling me about my amazing health plan navigator, I just feel a sense of rage, and I just don't want to make all of our employees at the city feel that same frustration all the time. If it works well, that's great, but I treat that one with healthy skepticism, so.
There's a lot of skepticism. My hope is it will work for some, word of mouth will spread, that people will give it a try, and there's no commitment for them. If they use the information, I'd just much rather them have this information versus how many decisions are made today, which is talking to their colleague that's not an expert in this, seeing a sign, hearing an advertisement, it's convenient, it's close to my house. Those really aren't good reasons as to how you would pick your provider for especially a serious health problem.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Chair, for indulging me on all this.
Thank you.
Other
Please.
questions?
Yes, one more.
Just, so when it comes to, I have a couple questions, contribution splits, is it by group? So for example, you could have a 90% for employee, but then if you had employee plus family or employee plus dependents, then are you saying that split could be different?
So the split is
Like
75% is what is permissible for dependent coverage. Good question. 90% for the employees, 75% for the dependents.
So you could go down or up to that, however we looked at that.
That's right.
Okay.
So to your point, we could do somewhere in between 0 and 1.3 million.
Exactly.
Yes.
I want to add something to that.
Please.
Sorry. The contribution, that is on a base plan. So right now, we pick a base plan and then use that dollar amount for all the other plans.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
not every plan.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
Okay.
I just want to clarify.
Thank you, thank you. My concern or just question, I guess, about the provider, the navigation piece of it is that it assumes that going into it, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're going to need a hip replacement, or you're going to need a hysterectomy, or whatever the case is, and time is of the essence. You're expecting, maybe I shouldn't be coming here, you're expecting the patient or the member to have the time to do all of that research within the navigation. You also hope that there's transparency from a cost standpoint, if you would, or a copay standpoint, or where each individual member is in their journey. The other piece that we have to take into consideration is, where they are in the deductible, in the plan year, and just having the expertise or the knowledge to actually go into the tool and be able to use and have it be friendly. So that's always a challenge, I think, for some folks, but that would be, not that we're going to weigh in here, but I just want to make sure I understand that that's what you're referring to when you say, navigating through.
Yeah, I would say the participant has all those same issues. We're just giving them a better tool to decide themselves and/or to have a conversation with their medical provider and that's been one of the barriers to this point, is that folks pick their provider and they believe them and they trust them at a level that is almost it's difficult for people just to even have conversations with them sometimes. And as we're going to ask people to start captaining their own health, this is part of conversations they need to get comfortable having. And if they can come in and say, here's some information about outcomes, Dr. Frazier, can we talk about this? And, should we go to one of these people? That's what my hope is. Their deductible's still going to be the same. They're out of pocket where they are achieving. All those things are the same. This would provide them the opportunity to have information about who would be the very best person I should go to get that hysterectomy.
Most likely within the narrowed network.
Not necessarily. It's going to be within the network that they participate in. So for the 53% of your employees and their dependents that are in the larger network, the tool will give them options within that network. For those that are in the narrow network, it will credential that accordingly. And participants naturally make an assumption that, well, they must be quality providers at some level. They're all in network. All that's, there is some credentialing that goes on, but all it means is they were willing to accept a certain level of pricing in exchange for providing that service.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so one more question real quick, just on the navigation. So is this a software that they're going to be able to log into and type in what they need and that it will do it for them? So it's not a person. I see you shaking your head. So I'm assuming it's not a person they're calling. They're logging into this, so the system already knows who they are and what insurance they have.
That's right.
Because they log in with their credentials.
That's right.
And then they say, I need a hysterectomy. And it will say.
And I'm in 64064 area so that it helps. And then it will, the city would provide eligibility information that says, okay, Rick's in the tighter network, and therefore we need to put providers, ideally, that are geographically convenient. But when you get into some of these large claimants that we've seen, this may not even be a person in Kansas City. When you get really specialized, some of these things may even recommend that there's a doctor that they should see that's not in Kansas City, but still in the network that they have opted into.
And then it would tell them that the reason that they are the best fit is A, B, C, D?
No, it simply says, here's the elite, the top 5, and then here's the top 20% of providers.
The top 5 in your area, or the top 5 that you can go to, and then the top 20
That's
of
right.
all, is what it's going to say?
Of the top 20 of providing that service for that condition.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry.
Did I start a new one? Back to Councilmember Frazier.
So it does, and this is a question, does it take into consideration the data points for me, Sherry Frazier? So Sherry's 21 years old. You know, she's an African-American female. With that, I just want to know what data points it picks up when it determines that, you know, the quality of that particular provider. Because that's really what I want to know is how is it going to apply, you know, to me as a patient or a member.
It is not going to go to that level of
Okay.
detail.
I figured it wouldn't, but that would be helpful. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
And I have one other on this list. A portion of your population is working and Medicare eligible, and part of those are working for insurance most every time. And they have the opportunity to select Medicare as primary and have your plan be secondary. And as folks get to Medicare eligibility age, the numbers show, right, that they're going to have more claims. So when we look at risk pool management, number one, and number two, to try to help your members understand how Medicare works and how it would work for me, we propose that we begin communicating with participants. And we can do it simply one of two ways. We can simply say, here's a number that everybody can call to ask about how Medicare works and what options they may have. The second way is to more actively manage this by reaching out to everybody who's 62, 63 and above. Say you're approaching Medicare eligibility age. Here's how this works. Would you like to have a conversation around this so that when you get to the point of making that decision, you're better informed? We would also go in the second category to all who are 65 and above who are Medicare eligible today to try to help those folks understand they have a choice that they would make. We cannot induce those that are actively employed that are Medicare eligible to come off of your plan, but we can communicate and educate, and for some, it might be advantageous to make that move.
Any questions on that?
That's you.
Councilmember Shields.
No, I just had a question that you've kind of gone through all these. Does the city currently do any like biometric screening or tobacco use screening, and is that already priced in, or would that be an option in any of these, like a plan design change or something like that?
So the flexibility exists to do existing or new incentives, right, for the type of behaviors that you want. So we have not gone, the first priority for us was to figure out where we are from a loss ratio, what can we do to try to attack today's problem. Our concurrent thing that we're going to start now is what are the longer term strategies that can change the health of the population. And that's a heavier lift. And some of the activities that you've described, right, are ways that many employers have used to try to get people engaged in their health. One quick comment about this, putting in programs that people can check boxes has proven unsuccessful.
But I'm thinking more specifically is not necessarily even that it changes behavior, but that it more accurately allocates costs. For example, on my husband's insurance, he has to get a blood test, and if it shows nicotine metabolites, he just pays a surcharge. Like, so it's, if you're using nicotine products, which increases your health risk, you will pay more for the plan. And hopefully that induces people to not use them as well. But I'm just wondering, like, is that included in these? Is that something that's on the table, or just not looking at it right now?
These are conversations that we plan to have. Our focus area has been on the larger, more near term to try to solve the budget gap that we have in front of us. In your conversation and your approach, we have some that have gravitated some employers towards an approach like that. The pushback that you tend to get is, yeah, I'm a smoker, but I eat well, I exercise, and Matt does neither of those. Why am I paying a higher premium amount? One of the things that most good thinkers have coalesced around is how can we encourage people to go to a primary care to get their numbers done, right? To learn and engage in their own health. And connection to primary care is one that has regularly proven to help somebody get on a better health journey. So when we're talking about those things, we'll do a similar process, right, to that here's what we're doing now, here's some other possibilities, and really get the feedback from the management team and from you that says, in your environment, how can we get people's attention and actually to participate in a way that's going to yield the outcomes we're looking for?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Nope. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If you have feedback, do you want to share that now and direction to get this information to the city council? We have some others, but it's largely things that we've spoken about. Looking for your direction as to fulfill one of the commitments that I made to the group, which was to keep the city council informed.
Okay, so we've basically went over all the information you pretty much have for us, is what you're telling me. And now you would like for us to tell you when you should go in front of the full council. So. That's a great question, Councilmember Shields. You should ask it.
Are you looking for feedback on that full menu of options that was presented, or just asking when this all goes to full council for consideration? Like, what are you, what do you need
I'd
from us
welcome
today?
feedback.
Yeah.
The last slide, if you want to. So that's the feedback that we got when we took it to the full management team. So we are definitely interested in your feedback. You had some great questions. And then what your thoughts are on taking it to the full council for exposure to this and, you know, just to give them an awareness. We will continue to work with Rick and his team on a monthly basis and hope that our claims will continue to improve and be on this track. And we will definitely keep you posted, but we're going to need to make some decisions about the direction and for the immediate plan renewal.
Sure. Do we want to, can we go back to the slide that lists the whole menu?
Sure.
Okay. So just kind of looking through these. Well, first of all, like the MERP sort of seems too good to be true. Like how is it that you can kind of provide the same level of service and save a couple $1 million a year? Like why doesn't everybody do this? Or like is there a lot of administrative hassle? Do people not like it? Is there a lot of risk to it? Like I feel like I must be missing something.
So what's required to make this work is that Cigna needs to give the appropriate decrements for the benefit plan reductions. And then the population needs to run kind of in the norms of 5 to 15% of the people would maximize their deductible and out-of-pocket. Yes, there is an additional administrative lift for both the HR and benefits team as well as communication education. But in the scope of the savings opportunity, we feel like it's a really viable option. And this is a concept that has been around. The last time it came in play was when it was a super inflationary environment and innovative ideas had to step in to try to resolve problems like this. This might be a temporary solution. If we were to move to self-funded, this probably goes away. So this could absolutely be a long-term solution, but consistent with what we're trying to accomplish, it might be a 2-year solution.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm open to that if our staff feels like it's something that we can undertake administratively and everything else. To me, like the core challenge of what I'm looking at here, right, is that core general employees this year have only gotten a COLA adjustment to their salaries, and it feels wrong to increase their cost for health insurance if we can avoid it. So I like things like the MERP, the creative solutions that we can try to find to avoid that. At the same time, as Councilmember Funk kind of alluded to earlier, the current benefits that we offer are pretty rich compared to other municipalities and certainly compared to the private sector. Like I look at that level of deductible and I'm like, I remember that from 20 years ago. But at the same time, it's sort of the trade-off for working in the public sector is, you know, better benefits, better security, but not always as high of compensation. And I don't want to mess with that bargain too much. I recognize that it would be really difficult for employees to absorb both just a cost of living adjustment and then also an increase in their insurance premium. So if we can avoid that as much as possible, I would like to, even though I do see, you know, my own health insurance just goes up every year and nobody asks me what I think about it, they just do it, you know? But I do think like moving from 3-tier to 4-tier to kind of move towards something that's closer again to what private sector does, what other municipalities do, like that makes sense to me. But if we can find some combination of things like the MERP and some of those more minor changes, if we can make that work for a year or two while we look at the self-insured options, that kind of makes sense for me. Because what I want is to not put so much of this on the employees, especially in a year when they're not getting a large compensation increase. So that's my philosophy of looking at it. And so if you're looking for feedback, and then when it goes to council, I always think the sooner the better. Like these aren't fun conversations to have, but I think it's really important that everybody knows kind of what's coming and what's being considered, and so that when we have to do a budget amendment to handle some of this later, that we're not all surprised by it. So I really do appreciate you coming this early and bringing this to us and helping us understand the shape of the problem and possible solutions. I much prefer hearing this now than September 1st, so thank you.
Do you think there's value in us going to full council at this time, or would you suggest we wait? Understanding, again, what the timeline is and what we're looking at.
Chair, I mean, you can report this out in committee reports too. I would really defer to you on what you want to take forward. Thank you.
We could do a report or also a staff
Well, let's get the
report.
rest of everybody's point of view up here, and then we'll see where we stand. Councilmember Funk, do you want to start, or Councilmember Frazier?
I mean, I'm kind of with Councilmember Shields. I don't want to see the burden shift back to the employees, but I think we need to see what our comparator cities doing. I mean, how do we align with what everybody else is doing? If the MERP is something you feel confident we can do, and obviously staff feels confident it's something they can manage, however, we can offset that burden and maybe not have to change deductibles. I mean, I would love to have a $750 deductible. That's beautiful. But, I mean, I don't know. My opinion, I don't know if this is ready to go to full council, or do we need to have some sort of confident decision of what we're going to send to the council? I think we would have the same conversation at city council, talking through this, and you're going to hear the same questions. I think maybe a little bit more defined of what we're sending to the full council to save, hey, maybe this needs to go back to finance and budget and be talked through again. I'll leave that up to you, Chair, wherever you feel comfortable at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Frazier.
Would it be possible to go back to finance and budget to implement some of the recommendations on slide, or have you already done this for slide 18, right? The feedback summary have those been incorporated into what we were looking at or what we looked at today? So that's one question, because I agree with Councilmember Funk in that we're going to have some of the same questions if this goes in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That being said, this is what I do, and so I think we need to, I would like to look at not only other municipalities, but also, I mean, it's changing out there, whether we go, look at private, companies or private businesses as well, because the move to 3 to 4 tier, I understand that, but I don't want to hit employees, 3 different times, but I think there is something to be said, 750, I'm with it. I had that 20 years ago, and one visit can, in fact, just recently, one visit will take that. I mean, I'm that person right now, so just kind of take a look at that. And then the contribution splits, I'm not sure I'm clearly understanding what that means, but I think there could be a little bit of work, tweaking around that too, because also the contributions, that in coupled with, I like that you've got Medicare education on here, because that's huge in today's, that's the fastest growing group, 65 and older. So I don't know if we can tweak it a little bit before it goes to full council, understanding that When I say tweak, make a couple of changes or recommendations, because I think they're going to have as many questions I will in 2 weeks if it stays the same. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so I'm along the same lines pretty much as everybody here. I think looking into the MERP is a great idea. I think looking at the contribution splits and getting them more realistic is a great idea. The one question I do have with the MERP is when you were explaining it better, you said, there are these parameters. Well, do we already fit into those parameters?
You do, and the primary reason you do is because of how rich the plan is. So there's a gap there between what it is today and what Cigna's plans can go to. So this is something that we will approach Cigna, and we'll be open. They're partners of yours, right? So we will tell them, here's how we're trying to help the city and its participants afford the ability, right, to survive a January 1 renewal. And here's the pricing decrements we're looking for associated with making those changes. And then we can come back to you. This kind of feedback is really helpful because if we bring all the permutations and combinations together, it would be endless and confusing. So I think we have enough now to come back with narrowing down based upon your feedback and the management's team. Here's kind of scenario 1 as to how we would get there and meet the budget gap. Here's scenario 2 as to what it looked like, and maybe scenario 3. And then it'll be more crystallized because changes in employee contributions percentage-wise is hard to get your arms around. Dollar changes per month is something that we can understand when you start comparing that to the raises that have been earned. So we could do that for you as one of the possible ways, with maybe just an update to the council in the meantime. That certainly would be
well,
reasonable.
I can definitely give a report, or I can have Ms. Vargas give a report.
Okay.
Either during council roundtable or during staff. We can figure that out. But yeah, I think taking it back and tweaking it's a great idea. I would definitely want to keep on here all the education pieces and the provider navigation. I understand that it's only for the rest of the year, which is not very long. But if we thought maybe that could be useful, and maybe management team checks it out first, right? Just to see how easy it is, and they can really start that education piece at that level. But I mean, anything helps. But yeah, if we can get this more narrowed down before we try to take it to the full council and spend a lot more time spinning everybody else's wheels, and then just to come back here and do it again, I think it'd be better if the more we can work out of it before we get it to that level. Okay?
Thank you
Anything
for the
else?
opportunity to be with you today and
you.
share thoughts. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments before we send them away? I mean, I kind of did, but.
Well, I think we need to be cognizant of also of the timeline. So you said open enrollment is typically October or November. So if we back into that from a project management standpoint, we're looking at probably August, where you really need to have a decision solidified going forward, right?
Oh, yeah, already at full council, yeah. And decision made, right? Yeah.
And I think that's a great idea if you could have someone test it, right? I think that's not necessarily management, yes, but, have anybody test it if
Who's
you would.
willing, yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
There's part of it that we're pushing them hard to have the free trial. If they have to do a load and implementation process to actually test it live, what maybe we could do is have parts of the HR benefits team, finance, review the tool in that level, see how it works, maybe go dive deeper on it and make a determination if it makes sense to take that next step is what I might propose.
That would be fantastic, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody on this topic? No? Okay, well, it looks like we're now at roundtable. So do we have roundtable? Anybody? Oh, thanks. Roundtable? No? No? Staff roundtable? No? Okay, we are adjourned at 5:49 p.m. Thank you all.